Hello, I'm Kaylin Woodward, and this is my artist presentation on Hiroshi Sugimoto. Hiroshi Sugimoto is a Japanese contemporary photographer. He was born in Tokyo on February 23, 1948. Sugimoto began taking photos in high school and went on to get a degree in sociology and politics, as well as a Bachelor of Fine Arts in photography. He studied photography in Los Angeles after visiting the States and deciding to stay. Sugimoto's main theme focuses on photography is memory and time. He primarily uses long exposure photography because of its ability to change an obscure reality. He shoots his images on a 19th century style 8x10 large format camera with very long exposures and black and white film. Hiroshi Sugimoto is quoted as saying, "Photography is a system of saving memories. It's a time machine, in a way, to preserve the memory, to preserve time." Influences of his work are Marcel Duchamp and the Dadaist and Surrealist movements. It is important to note what these movements stood for and were trying to achieve in order to see their influence in Sugimoto's work. Both movements were in the 1920s, before Sugimoto's time, and were a result of World War I. The Dada movement used visual art in a way to create alternative ways to see the world around us, while also being experimental and re-envisioning the ways of creating art. The Surrealist movement aims to revolutionize the human experience. It focuses on the unconscious mind and dreams. It is very expressive, strange, and uncanny. One of Sugimoto's series follows the theme of different theater interiors. Here we have this image of the Paramount Theater in Newark, taken in 2015. Most of the lighting is very dark. Sugimoto is able to achieve very dark shadows and then contrast it beautifully with these really bright, clear white highlights that bounce off and make for some really interesting shapes along the aisles of the seating in the theater. There's something about staring at the photo that makes you feel like you are in a trance. Sugimoto allows us to view the theater in a different way that you might never notice if you were there in person. Next is the Michigan Theater. Sugimoto continues to maintain the rich, dark shadows. It's extremely impressive that he is able to capture the fine detail in the architecture of the building, while also getting the stark brightness of the screen. The secret really is the long exposures of his camera that allow for the crisp photography. He makes the theater space feel very grand and expansive. It is also a bit strange to see such a public area that normally has lots of people within being so empty and without human interaction. It almost reminds me of what things would be like if all human life was gone. Moving on to some outdoor photography, Sugimoto has an amazing way of playing with the reality that is seen. Upon first glance, and without reading the title, I had no idea that this image was of a body of water. Part of his Seascape series, the light reflections on the ocean are so smooth that they look like brushstrokes from a paintbrush. It simplifies the ocean to highlight and shadow, while maintaining the rhythm and movement of the water. It feels much more like a dream or an illusion than it does reality. I wonder how he achieved the light reflection on the water while keeping the background pitch black. Here is one of Sugimoto's self-portraits. Distorted Universal Vision. There is something slightly off-putting, yet very intriguing, about the fact that he chose to have a bright light reflected in his glasses. While many self-portraits tend to have a personal feel to them, he is choosing not to let the viewer into his personal space and maintain a sense of mystery to him as an artist. I just really enjoy what he has done with the glasses here. And in referring to the ocean and his seascapes, Sugimoto stated, "Every time I see the sea, I feel a calming sense of security, as if visiting my ancestral home. I embark on a voyage of seeing." Now I will move on into discussing his work within the diorama series. There is a smoky feel to the image that seems like it was taken early in the morning with fog in the background. We are able to see the animals grazing and going on about their day. The texture is highly detailed. I feel like I could reach out and touch the grass or the horns of the animal. Here he is able to bring life to taxidermy animals through his treatment of photography. In order to make these scenes appear more lifelike, Sugimoto would place a dark cloth over the camera lens to avoid the glare of the enclosure glass and would have exposures almost an hour long. This is a lot of meticulous skill and attention to detail on his part to achieve great photos. That dedication is very admirable. As Sugimoto mentioned, another reason for success is the fact that there is no color in the photo, making it easier to trick the human eye. The gemsbok image is lighter in the background and overall sense than his earlier images typically are. It feels as if he wandered through fields and then ran into a pack of animals that can't decide whether or not to trust the photographer. It achieves exactly what Sugimoto has based his work upon, creating a memory that doesn't really exist and perfectly freezing time. This diorama photo was taken 25 years after the previous one, and we can see an improvement to his ability to gather more light and detail in the image. Another famous set of photographs from him are the portraits, which the Dutch Guggenheim commissioned him for. These produced haunting photos of wax figurines, in which he isolated the figures to take their portraits. This gives them somewhat of a feel that they are alive, but at the same time the photo lives in the uncanny valley, where we are able to recognize that they are not real humans. With this portrait of Catherine Howard, he is able to retell a story of a historical memory. The Napoleon Bonaparte portrait holds that feel of surrealism because it is like calling out a leader from the past to come get their portrait taken and likeness captured. He gives a platform for these historical figures to appear on film in a way that they were not able to during their time. Having an all-black background really allows for the figure to pop and come to the forefront of the image, making Napoleon appear soft and somber to the viewer. Overall, Sugimoto has had such a solid and evident personal style to all his images. It is easy to visually determine which photographs were shot by him in his vision. While he has been able to do what he has been able to do with the medium of photography throughout his career is really remarkable and should serve as an inspiration to others in this field. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my presentation.